I was curious to see if lane selection would have been improved. It seems to be a pattern, and it's still with this version, that it waits until the very last minute to get over in time for a turn. Okay, come on. You got to get, okay, there it goes. And now it's, ooh, okay, so we almost cut that car off. There's someone right behind us. It should not do that. Okay, and then coming here, oh, come on. Okay, so I had to step on it there because it was not going to go through there, but it started to go through, which is interesting, and it just didn't follow through. And these weights have to apply to every situation across the whole country. You know, here, it stopped at traffic. Okay, there, I almost had to step on it. It wasn't going. I almost had to step on it, but it did recognize it. Now what is it doing? It's slowing down. Okay, it saw that as a red light and was slowing down. Thankfully, it didn't come to a complete stop. And now I saw an interesting video. It was a video that Omar did where he, and I know he's on an older build, but he's been very transparent about how he wants to get the newer version. But I can say right now that this newer version is not going to be any better. And I'm very curious, by the way, your comments on this, because I'm no expert by any means. I'm not Dr. Know-It-All. I love your stuff, by the way. Hey guys, John here. I am back again to do an official review of Full Self-Driving 11.4.8.1. This is the latest version, just came out today. I did a live stream earlier this morning. I just want everybody to know that I am extremely optimistic and I am very pro Full Self-Driving. Even though I talk about some of the weaknesses or some of the downsides of using it, I want everybody to know that I'm extremely bullish about the technology. There seems to be a perception out there that I am of the opposite and that I love to point out the problems, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I think I gravitate towards those because I'm an engineer. I tend to look at things that can be improved, and I take that as an opportunity. I'm not nitpicking. I've never said anything like disparaging that says, hey, they're never ever going to solve this. Nothing like that. In fact, I am very, very optimistic for the future of Full Self-Driving, and I think Tesla is taking the right approach. As laborious and as long and drawn out as it is, and as frustrated as I think a lot of us become with Elon Musk and his over-promising and under-delivering when it comes to the timelines with this technology, I still am very optimistic. So I just want to make that very, very clear before we get started. I'm taking the car over to the Superchargers. It's at a Meijer, which is a very popular place for these chargers in the Midwest here. And you'll see the Superchargers at the Meijer grocery stores throughout Illinois, throughout Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. All of this Midwest has Superchargers at Meijer. Meijer is really smart, by the way, to partner up with Tesla in the early days, because in the future, when EVs really start to take off, Meijer is going to get a lot of extra business due to that. And I love that so many automotive manufacturers have embraced the NACS style for charging. Without me talking your head off before we get started, I'm just going to actually, I don't need to say double tap anymore. It's a single pull. I'm going to pull down and then it's going to take off. So here we go. I love that. No longer do I need to double tap or double pull down. Left turn signal goes on, and it's kind of staying to the right. I wouldn't do that, but this is a side road, and I'm fine with that. Now this is interesting. We've got quite a few cars on the left. After this, it is clear, and it's starting to go. But okay, good. It hesitated because there's quite a few cars on the right. We wouldn't be able to go yet. But there is a median in the middle. So there's between those two lines, the yellow lines, you can see we can actually go there. Now it's not showing, the creep zone's only in this area, so it's waiting for it to clear on both sides. This is a very wise thing to do. And I'm hoping that I'm gonna notice, wow, accelerating really quickly out of there and then getting out of the way, changing lanes to follow route. I don't know why it did that. And then coming back into the main lane. I think I confused the person behind me. My wheels, the tires on my car I have about 40,000 miles on these Lexani tires. They're high performance tires. And they were like $90 a tire. They were a killer deal. They're made out of South Korea. They've been really good tires for me, but toward the end of their life, they slip a little bit. And they're not great in the rain either. But for the price, no brainer. Anyway, the tire slipped a little bit back there, but other than that, it felt really assertive. It just really accelerated. And I know it probably would have done that before as well, but that felt a little bit more assertive than I would have been previously. Now there's a new video module that they added to this version, and I'm not sure that we're going to see evidence of that in this drive per se, but I love the fact that I am able to test it here while it's still light outside to be able to see the city street driving. Earlier when I did my live stream, it was all pretty much on the highway, and what I observed then was the car really doesn't get out of the passing lane. It still has that issue where it just sits there in the passing lane. Even in the average and chill mode settings, it will tend to kind of just stay in that lane. And it takes a couple cars to pass you before it realizes it should get out of the lane. That for me is a big frustration because we were spoiled before where it would always get out really quickly whenever it was in the passing lane. And I'm not the type of person that just sits there. I prefer to kind of get out of the way of other people whenever possible. So we're going all the way up to Shearing Road, and then we're going to be turning left, and I'm trying to take it on into the busiest areas. So I am in Portage, Michigan right now, and it's about 4:39 p.m. The sun is pretty much down completely, so we're going to be changing probably to night mode before we get out of the car. We got 2 minutes before we get to the first waypoint. As soon as we turn left onto Shearing Road, I'm going to delete the first waypoint. That allows the car to continue on its way to the final destination without having to stop. So I'll do that here really shortly. But I am returning some bottles. My mom wants me to return these for their 10-cent deposit, which is a thing here in Michigan. In Illinois, I think it's like 5 cents or maybe even 0. Nobody really returns bottles in Illinois. But growing up in Michigan, we would return bottles all the time. In fact, we'd go on road trips, and my dad would pull over on the side of the road on the highway to pick up a can. And we as kids were like, oh, are you kidding me? Is this really worth it? And we were kids then. But I really can't fault my parents for being like that because it's a savings opportunity, right? Getting over, it hesitated there a little bit and then slowed down. It hit on the brake, or it slowed down a little bit more than I would have. I would have gradually gotten over. So, okay, waiting for that car. Okay, there you could hear the bottles in the back. All right, going up here. So this is where I'm going to delete this waypoint. So to do that, I go into here, say edit trip, and I just hit on this X and say done. All right, so now we're gonna make our way to the Meijer. This is gonna take us down Westnedge Avenue. Ooh, it's more interesting. We're gonna get a little bit better variety. This is good. So we're gonna get some side streets, it looks like, but we're gonna get some semi-major roads along the way. Okay, some people there. It did show them on the screen. I don't think it showed the dog. Again, coming through here, there was a car coming there. They have a yield sign, and going through that intersection really smoothly. It is lightly misting outside, so it's not raining, but it's just enough where it might cause my windshield wipers to go off. I have had an issue with my 2019 Model 3 with the HDMI screen, and this is just particular to my car because I've talked to the person who makes these screens, Adam Urban. If you're interested in getting them, by the way, I'll throw his info down in the description. But if you have an older car, you might have this issue, although I am a rarity apparently. I'm the only one that has had this happen, and Adam sold these to so many people, but that was interesting. That car came, it went over to the right a little bit and back to left. That was awesome. That felt really natural.
Turn right onto Romance Road.
Romance Road. This is actually Romance Road. Okay, let's see how this car comes up. Okay, there we swerved over to the right just ever so slightly. It felt really nice when that car was coming. But what will happen is if my windshield wipers go, it will create electrical noise and disturbance, and then it will cut out the HDMI signal. So if that happens, I might have to pull over because you have to basically get out of the car to cycle power to the screen or to turn off the screen, and then that allows the signal to come back in. Because what will happen is if it distorts the signal or interrupts the signal, it will be really blurry, and you don't want to see a blurry HDMI output. It's really nice when it's clean. But yeah, it looks like the rain or the mist is picking up a little bit. So it turned right there, really nice, natural, and we're gonna be turning left onto this road here. Okay, waiting for those cars. Okay, this path is clear. Again, I'm not anticipating too much here. I'm not certainly expecting to notice the new video module. There's a lot of things they added for pedestrians and situations with detecting those pedestrians and cyclists in particular. I did a video about that and talked about all of the changes that were mentioned in the release notes for this, which, the wipers went off and my screen did not glitch. That was awesome. I'm so thankful for that. Hopefully no more windshield wipers. There, someone crossing. It slowed down really nice for them. It saw that overhead crosswalk. The light actually turned green for a temporary. There was no light there at all, but it visualized those as being traffic lights. And then at the very last second, you could see it showed a green symbol. That was kind of funny. Coming down here, we're going to be turning right onto Millam. But I'm not anticipating we're going to run into any of the issues or any of the improvements that I documented before. But the release notes looked identical to what was leaked previously for 11.4.8.1. So I scrolled through them really briefly this morning. It was like 4:35 a.m. and nothing looked different from those. I'll confirm when I post this. If there is something different, I'll throw it down into the description. Okay, turning right here onto Millam. It needs to get over. Now, this is interesting. It needs to get over. Why does it wait until the last second? It really should not. Okay, there, and jerks over to 2 lanes like that. So the person behind me, thankfully they weren't right on my tail, but that was interesting. It should have... So, okay, that's a nice observation, because I was curious to see if lane selection would have been improved. It seems to be a pattern, and it's still with this version, that it waits until the very last minute to get over in time for a turn, and then other times it will change lanes to follow route, and many people have pointed this out. It'll change lanes to follow route, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, we need to go right up here, but it changes into the left lane. It's like, what? All right, so now we're on Millam, and we're going to be turning left onto Westnedge up here. This Westnedge Avenue is the main road, and once again, look at this, the lane selection. We need to be in the left lane. It's getting lucky right now with the traffic. This is the gap to take. It needs to get over. This is Westnedge right up here. And look at this, it's waiting to the last second. It's really waiting and waiting, and needs to get over. Why does it do this? Blows my mind. Okay, come on. You got to get, okay, there it goes. And now it's, okay, so we almost cut that car off. There's someone right behind us. It should not do that. Okay, and then coming here, come on. Okay, so I had to step on it there because it was not going to go through there, but it started to go through, which is interesting, and it just didn't follow through. So these are the things, I'm going to report that. These are the things that just, that would have been a disaster had I not intervened there, because it would have ended up in the middle of the intersection, and it would have been blocking traffic basically. And there was a car hot on my tail wanting to go through that light, same as me. And as a human driver, it was very clear that you could go through. There was enough time with that yellow light, that yellow arrow, I think it was yellow arrow, to go through the intersection. But the car hesitated at the last second, and then it aborted. So things like that are still there. And now I saw an interesting video. Unfortunately, Dan O'Clown shared it. It was a video that Omar did, where and I know he's on an older build, but he had some interesting takeovers that, he basically ran a stop sign, and there was another situation where it tried to jerk across into another lane, and all these little hiccups. And he's been very transparent about how he wants to get the newer version. There, it slowed down for that car. But I can say right now that this newer version is not going to be any better. although he tends to believe that it's going to be a lot better, I can assure you it's really not. I mean, it's basically the same thing. And that's one of the things that I keep thinking about with version 12 when it comes out. Version 11 is primarily version 12 already because we have so many neural nets already being used. And I know version 12 is all neural nets, but the code, there's still the heuristics, the code that exists in the underlying code for version 11, like the rules and the logic, right? But for the most part, it's already all neural nets. So, the big question in my mind is how quickly will it learn? Because these are little weights. Basically what's happening here is it's like a tweak on the weight, or how heavily it's biased toward making a particular decision in a particular situation based on historical data, vision data, and that's been trained on. And these weights have to apply to every situation across the whole country. Here, stopped at traffic. Okay, there, I almost had to step on it. It wasn't going. I almost had to step on it, but it did recognize it. Now what is it doing? It's slowing down. Okay, it saw that as a red light and was slowing down. Thankfully, it didn't come to a complete stop, but that really threw it off. I'm going to report that as well. Interesting. But just getting back to the weight topic, I think that's going to be the hardest thing to really get that down. I mean, how do you know what weighting to apply to basically be perfect in every single situation? You can't really, right? It depends on the region. So I think there's going to have to be some logic. They're going to have to go back to using that. Now, they might not tell you that they're doing that, but there has to be some regionality built in to say, okay, this is Philadelphia, and we know the roads here are screwed up and they're not like any other place in the entire country, so we're going to not pay attention to the weight on this particular road. Those types of scenarios, they have to be there. Otherwise, it's just, in certain areas, it's not, people are just going to know, and hopefully it would be published that you can't use beta. Maybe you can turn it on, but it's going to be recommended by Tesla not to use it in those areas. I'm going to be very curious to see how they handle that type of thing, because in my opinion, the training data would have to have different weight values depending on the region, and the training data would have to be for each region. Hopefully they're taking that approach. Maybe they are already and I just don't know it, but to me, that's the biggest mystery, is how you can, through weights, come up with a one-size-fits-all solution.
In 500 feet, turn right.
And I'm very curious, by the way, your comments on this, because I'm no expert by any means. I'm not Dr. Know-It-All.
Then turn right.
Sorry, Dr. Know-It-All. I don't know your actual name, but I love your stuff, by the way. I'm not knocking you. Ooh, that was interesting. Okay, that other car wanted to go. Interesting. Did you see that indecision? That was pretty neat. So the car was hesitating. Other car was hesitating. My car went. I was like, yes, okay, it did the right thing, but that was a little bit awkward.
Your destination.
But no, I'm not knocking Dr. Know-It-All. I think he's awesome. I just think it's hilarious how he says he knows everything. I know he knows he doesn't know everything. He knows a heck of a lot more than I do. I guarantee you that. But I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm no expert. So for me, commenting on this stuff is a little bit silly. But I always think about this stuff, and it's all speculation, right, for me. All right, here's the supercharger. So for anybody that is curious about how the superchargers work, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Basically, you come up, you try to find a stall that is vacant. I mean, obviously, like, there's like 4 right now, or 1, 2, 3 that are vacant. You try to find one that is not doubled up by somebody else. So like there's 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. And then there's 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. So there's 2 bays, I guess you would call it, of chargers here. You try, since there's 2 cars charging on bay 2 and only 1 car charging on bay 1, you want to go to bay 1 because you'll get a faster charge that way. So you always want to go to whichever bay has the fewer the fewest number of cars charging there, because it distributes the load across that entire bay. So you back in. One of my friends, he said, "Why are you going back there so far? You really want to go as far back as you can because the cables aren't that long." And I think some other vehicles, the cables that they need to be a lot longer. So I heard in some locations they've been taking out some barriers, like they had something to stop the car from going back too far. I heard that they started taking those out. But you want to go back as far as you can because the cables don't stretch that far. You put it into park, and then literally you get out of the car, you take the cable, and you plug it in. That's it. You walk away, and it charges your credit card automatically. There's no fumbling around putting your zip code in. There's no nothing. It's really convenient, and you can see how much you're paying on your screen in your car where it's warm. You don't have to stand out in the cold and be like, okay, and you top it off to get that perfect dollar amount. I've never felt like I need to charge to a particular dollar amount. For me, it's always what percentage do I want to stop it at? And once you go above 80%, it's a lot slower to charge, and you typically don't need to go much past 80%. Unless you're on a really long road trip, it'll tell you how long you need to charge. That's another thing. So I should have told it I'm coming here. It's actually kind of a bad thing I didn't, because what'll happen is it will warm up the battery, especially when it's colder weather like this. I mean, it's 39 degrees. It's not freezing out, but you really want to tell it that you're going to a supercharger so that it doesn't, because it charges so fast, right? There's the thermal dynamics of the battery chemistry, and you don't want to damage the batteries with the fast charging. So you want to have the batteries warm. In the summer, preheating the battery is not such a big thing, but definitely in the colder weather, you want to be aware of that. So I'm not going to charge for that long. I'm going to run in real quick and try to make this errand very fast. But I'm so happy that we were able to complete this before it got dark out, because in that case, I do need to change the contrast setting on my screen, and everything worked out perfectly. There were no glitches on the screen. Let me just check and make sure. Yeah, it looks like it recorded at full quality. So I hope you guys got something out of this. There were a couple scenarios. I'm going to throw them as highlights at the beginning of this video just so you can see them, because they were fascinating to me. Going through that intersection, unfortunately, I gravitate, like I said, toward the areas that are more interesting, which are the areas that unfortunately need improvement. But I am extremely optimistic about this software, and I really look forward to seeing version 12 when it comes out. It's going to be a journey. It's going to continue being a journey. A lot of people have said it's going to come really soon, where we're going to have robo-taxis and you don't need to have your hands on the wheel at all, and it's going to come out of beta. I'm not of that camp. I'm not like a huge fanboy and saying, hey, yeah, this is all going to happen soon, next year. And Elon Musk was just asked about it on an interview with the New York Times, and he said within the next 5 years. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Because I'm thinking 2030. So that's 7 years away, 6 years away? I don't think it's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. I think it's going to be more like 5 to 10 years, just based on what I've observed. Now, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but this is just my personal opinion. And everybody has these opinions, and that's what's so fascinating about it. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We don't know until it really proves itself. But Tesla has yet to do that. That's the thing. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I am hoping, really hoping, but I'm not going to, based on the progress I've seen in the past 2 years, I'm not going to say that it's going to improve significantly. I mean, think about all of the edge cases. There's so many situations that it needs to be able to do. And I don't know, guys. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe. It goes a long way. I really appreciate it. And get subscribed. Hit the notification bell. I mean, it's so that you can see my version 12 live stream whenever that comes out. I was thinking it would come out in December, but now I'm thinking it might not come out until next year. I've gone back and forth on that. I don't really know exactly, but next year seems more plausible now to me, because it's a lot. It's a lot for them to transition over to without any rules whatsoever. Thanks for watching, guys.